Hello, my dear children. Today, let us do fourth chapter of history of class 8. The name of the chapter is Tribals, Dikus, and the Vision of a Golden Age. In 1895, a man named Birsha was seen roaming the forest and villages of Chotanagpur in Jharkhand. So, Birsha is the name of a man who was seen in 1895 in the villages of Chotanagpur in Jharkhand. In the forest of that place, people said he had miraculous power. He could cure all diseases and multiply grain. So people, they said here, Birsha had having the power to work miracles. Moreover than this, he could cure all diseases and multiply grain. Birsha himself declared that God had appointed him to save his people from trouble, free them from the slavery of Dikus, that is outsiders' voice. Diku means outsiders. So Birsha, he himself, he declared that he is appointed by the God in order to save his people from trouble and free them from the hand of Dikus. Soon thousands began following Birsha, believing that he was Bhagavan and had come to solve all their problems. So, very quickly, thousands people, they began to follow Birsha. They began to believe him. They were believing him as a god. Bhagavan means God. And he had come in order to solve all their problems. Means he used to solve their problems. Birsha was born in a family of Mundas. Mundas means a tribal group that lived in Chotanagpur. Birsha, he born in a tribal group of Chotanagpur. But his followers included other tribals of the region, Santals and Oraons. So his followers, people, those who followed him, they were included other tribals also of the region, like as Santals and Oraons. All of them, in different ways, were unhappy with the changes they were experiencing and the problems they were facing under British rule. So all those people, all that tribal people, they, what happened here, in different ways, they were unhappy under the British rule, whatever changes they brought by these Britishers. They were experiencing and problems they were facing under the British rule. They dislike it. Their familiar ways of life seemed to be disappearing. Their livelihoods were under threat, and their religion appeared to be in danger. See, That was all. They feel what? Their life, it seemed to be disappearing. Their livelihoods were with, it was in great danger. So it means deal with in a certain way, and their religion appeared to be in danger. They, themselves, they feel this. Their religion also is in the way of danger. What problems did Birsha set out to resolve? Who were the outsiders being referred to as Dikus? And how did they enslave the people of the region? So this here you see what problems did Birsha set out to solve, to resolve them, and who were the outsider, it referred here as Dikus, and how did they enslave the people of that area? What was happening to the tribal people under the British? How did their lives change? These are some of the questions you will read about in this chapter. So, this chapter is based on this, boys. What was happening to the tribal people as British was ruling there, and how did their lives changes. So these are the some of the questions which we are going to discuss here under the chapter. You have read about tribal societies last year. That means in class 7 about these different tribal societies you have learned, boys. Most tribes had customs and rituals that were very different from those laid down by Brahmins. So most tribals, they had their own custom and their rituals, which is not same with that Brahmanas. These societies also did not have the sharp social divisions that were characteristic of caste societies. All those who belonged to the same tribe thought of themselves as sharing common ties of kinship. What we find here at these societies, those people, they also did not have their sub social divisions, which were a feature or quality belonging typically to a person of caste societies. All those who belong to the same tribe thought of themselves as sharing common ties of kinship. Kinship means blood relationship. Blood relationship is known as kinship here, boys. The meaning of kinship is blood relationship. However, this did not mean that there were no social and economic differences within tribes, but it means not so that there were no social and economic differences among the tribes. How did tribal groups live? Tribal groups, how they were living. Let us see. By the 19th century, tribal people in different parts of India were involved in a variety of activities. So, for different works, these tribal people, they were involved, they were included. Some were zoom cultivators, zooming cultivation. Some were involved for that purpose. Some of them practice zoom cultivation, that is shifting cultivation. Zoom cultivation means shifting cultivation. So some of this tribal group they are to practice zoom cultivation. That means cultivating this cultivation. Okay, this zoom cultivation, which is known as shifting cultivation. This was done on small patches of land, mostly in forests. So this zoom cultivation or shifting cultivation, it is a cultivation which is practiced in a small area of land, mostly in the forest areas. This type of cultivation it is practicing in our Manipur also, boys. The cultivators cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground. The cultivators who is cultivating the land, they used to cut down the top of the trees in order to uh, reach sun rays to the ground and burnt the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. So what they used to do, they used to cut the tree tops and burn the vegetation on the land to clear that area for their cultivation. They spread the ash from the firing which contained potash. So they used to spread the ash after that means burning that different tree tops, or small trees. So they get ash, and this ash after firing they spread this, and it contains potash to fertilize the soil. It is a see potash. It is a chemical, boys, and it is very helpful to fertilize our soil. They use the axe to cut trees and the hoe to scratch the soil in order to prepare it for cultivation. So this cultivator they use tool axe in order to cut trees and hoe in order to scratch or make fit the soil to prepare to grow crops. Hoe means a long handled gardening tool with a thin metal blade used mainly for weeding, boys. They broadcast the seeds, that is, scattered the seeds on the field instead of ploughing the land and sowing the seeds. So what they used to do, they used to scatter the seeds, okay, in place of ploughing the land and sowing the seeds. They just used to scatter the seeds. Once the crop was ready and harvested, they moved to another field. So it is not a long last cultivation. Okay, it is not possible for this zoom cultivation. So that's why it says here what? Once the crop was ready and harvested, when that means it was ripen, or that means it was people cut that, they used to move to another field because that very areas soil become less fertile, so they need to change their farm. A field that had been cultivated once was left fallow for several years. So a field which had been cultivated once, now it became what? Fallow, where Fallow means a field left uncultivated for a while so that the soil recovers fertility. So for several years they left that place. Shifting cultivators were found in the hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. Shifting cultivators, they are found in such places, okay, like in the hilly and forested tracts of our northeast and central India. The lives of these tribal people depended on free movement within forests and on being able to use the land and forests for growing their crops. So, see, the lives of these tribal people, they depend what on free movement. They used to go freely inside the forest and on being able to use the land and forests for growing their crops. That is the only way they could practice shifting cultivation. So that is the only way how it is possible for them in order to practice shifting cultivation. Some were hunters and gatherers. Say apart from zoom cultivators, we find here some were hunters and gatherers. In many regions, tribal groups lived by hunting animals and gathering forest produce. In many regions, you'll observe tribal groups they used to live now also by hunting animals and gathering the forest products. Forest products means whatever it produced in the forest. They show forest as essential for survival. These people used to see what forest is their essential for their livelihood. The Khons were such a community living in the forest of Odisha. Khons, it is a group of people who live in the forest of Odisha. They regularly went out on collective hunts and then divided the meat amongst themselves. So these people, Khons, they used to go for hunting regularly. They regularly went out. So they used to go for hunting in a group on collective hunts, okay? And then after hunting, what they used to do, they used to divide it, the meat among themselves who were joined in that hunting. They ate fruits and roots collected from the forest and cooked food with the oil they extracted from the seeds of the shal and mahua. So these people, they used to eat what? Fruits and roots which they have collected from the forest, and they used to cook food with the oil which they have extracted from shal tree and mahua. Have a look, dear boys, towards the uh, right margin of the book, I mean left margin of the book. Shal, it is a type of tree, okay, a tree. And mahua, a flower that is eaten or used to make alcohol. They used many forest shrubs and herbs for medicinal purposes and sold forest produce in the local markets. So these people, they used to collect, okay, they used to collect and use many forest shrubs and herbs for the medicinal purpose, means they use that as medicine, and they used to sell or sold forest produce, whatever that means they collected from the forest, they used to sold them in the local markets. The local weavers and Leather workers turned to the khons when they needed supplies of kusum and palash flowers to color their clothes and leather. So the local weavers and persons, those who work with leather, they used to go near khons when they needed, and they used to collect these kusum and palash flowers in order to color their clothes and leather. Kusum and palash, these are the name of flowers, boys. From where did these forest people get their supplies of rice and other grains? So to survive their life, they need what, rice and other grains. So from where did they used to get this? At times they exchange goods, getting wheat they needed in return for their valuable forest produce. So at times there was a time when they exchange goods. Exchange good means, suppose I have given you a cloth, and then in place of that means giving money, you have given me rice. So it means here exchange of goods. It happened like this. Okay. So at times they used to exchange goods like this with what? Getting what they needed in return for their valuable forest produce. Whatever valuable forest produce they collected, with that they used to exchange goods, whatever they needed. At other times they bought goods with the small amount of earnings they had. Other times they used to purchase goods with a less amount which they have earned. Some of them did odd jobs in the villages, carrying loads or building roads, while others labored in the fields of peasants and farmers. See, apart from that, some of them they used to do odd jobs or work in villages, such as carrying loads or building roads, while others they used to work as a laborer, labored in the fields of, say, peasants and farmers. Okay. When supplies of forest produce shrunk, tribal people had to increasingly wander around in search of work as laborers. When supplies of forest produce shrunk, that means when supplies, they feel what, it is less. Tribal people, they had to increasingly wander around in order to search of work as laborers. But many of them, like the beggars of central India, were reluctant to do work for others. But you see, many of them, they are bound to do work, okay, to do work for others. The beggars show themselves as people of the forest who could only live on the produce of the forest. It was below the dignity of a beggar to become a laborer. So the beggars, they show themselves what? As people of the, people of the forest who could only live on the produce of the forest, who could live there with the production of forest only. It was below the dignity of a beggar to become a laborer. Tribal groups often needed to buy and sell in order to be able to get the goods that were not produced within the locality. Tribal groups, they always needed to buy and sell. It was for, in order to be able to get the goods which were not produced within the locality. This led to their dependence on traders and moneylenders. So, just because of that, they have to depend on traders, those persons who are doing any trading, and moneylenders. Moneylenders means from which we can lend money. Traders came around with things for sale and sold the goods at high prices. Traders, they used to come around with different things in order to sell them and sold the goods, that is also at very high prices. Moneylenders gave loans with which the tribals met their cash needs, adding to what they earned. And moneylenders, they used to give loans to those people with which the tribals meet their cash needs, adding to what they earned. But the interest charged on the loans was usually very high. So, whatever money they have taken from moneylenders, their interest charge on the loans, it was usually very high. So, for the tribals, market and commerce often meant debt and poverty, and that is the reason this tribals, market, and commerce, they always meant remain, that means as a debtor, and they remain as poor. They therefore came to see the moneylender and trader as evil outsiders and the cause of their misery. And that is why their miserable condition make them to see the moneylender and trader as evil outsiders and the cause of their misery here. So let's up to here. Thank you all.